the big headline is the contenders are Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard, and Remco Evenepoel. So the three favorites for the Tour are the three favorites for this race.
Yeah, it's kind of unique, to see them racing, together and against each other before the Tour. Normally one would choose the Tour of Switzerland, the other the Dauphiné, the other would, do a training camp and then another race. So the fact that the three of them are there will be interesting.
Everybody, welcome back to the Move Plus. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan Bruyneel. We are breaking down a little bit of racing from the week, a little bit of news that's come out from the Giro d'Italia, and most importantly, talking about the Critérium du Dauphiné, which kicks off this weekend. A mini Tour de France of sorts, but it has Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard, and Remco Evenepoel all facing off. Enough with the silliness. Now the big stars are racing, and we can fully shift our focus to Tour de France stuff. But Johan, before we get into that, let's tie up a few loose ends from the Giro d'Italia. You had an really interesting anecdote about, we were talking on, I believe it was the Stage 20 podcast, about why we had riders working for, I think we had a little Trek rider working for Simon Yates when he was away on the Finestra, and then we had Dries de Bont from Decathlon working for Richard Carapaz. We couldn't quite figure out why exactly that was. You might have new information on that. That's quite interesting.
Yeah. There was two riders that we said, hey, what's going on here? And especially Dries de Bont, Decathlon AG2R, who got caught from the break, started to pull on Col de Finestre for Carapaz. I said, what's going on? So he tried to find explanations. Initially I thought that it was because Van Aert had sprinted against him in this Inter-Giro sprint classification, which de Bont was leading. Now that turns out not to be true. Actually, de Bont himself in an interview said publicly, and now we know the reason why he started pulling. So he doesn't have a contract yet for next year, which is, he's a good rider, he's a very valuable rider, but as there are a lot of changes going on in Decathlon, I can see, why they have put him on hold. Maybe they're going to renew him, but I think they're getting some other deals done first. So he said, the week before, last week, I just said publicly that I'm on the market. I have no contract. I'm open to proposals. I'm pretty sure he will find a team quite easily because he's a good rider. He's a very valuable rider for teams. But apparently, in the morning of the stage, this is what de Bont says in his interview, right? In the morning of stage 20, at the start, the buses are together and people walk around, and there's one director on EF. His name is Ken van Marke. It's the brother of Sepp van Marke, who's a Belgian director on EF, and he was at the Giro, and so he talked to de Bont. Usually it happens. You say hi, hey, how's it going? And so de Bont must have said, I'm okay, but I'm looking for a team. And then Van Marke, the EF director, said, well, what's your plan for today? And de Bont said, well, I have no plan. I'm going to try to go in the break. And then, he knows he can't win the stage. And Van Marke must have said, you never know. If we need some help and we can have some help, it could have an important effect on your future. So that's why de Bont, when he got caught by Carapaz, started to pull on Col de Finestre. I don't know how long. It was 400 or 500 meters, which is a lot on a climb like that, So that was the reason. There was not. We were completely wrong. He didn't have any beef with Wout van Aert, but it was basically, I'm not going to say a favor they asked, but some kind of, little agreement they made just in case the opportunity arose. And so that's what happened.
Is this cheating?
Well, it depends how you look at it. I don't think so. Listen, there's nobody who can prevent another rider to take a pole. If this is the way to think, then I want to go back. For example, one of the most famous favors returned to somebody of another team, I would say, is the lead out of Geraint Thomas in 2023 for Mark Cavendish. Is that cheating, or is that a friend's favor?
It technically might, if you actually read the rule, it actually technically might be cheating, but obviously they would never enforce that.
You can't enforce that. There's no way to prove. I mean, listen, if the bond all of a sudden was there and he said, okay, sometimes it happens, like, riders have certain relationships, friendly relationships with people. And in the Bond's case, for example, right? So his day is done. And he get caught, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna make myself useful one last time, not for my team, but for these guys." There's nobody who can prevent him from doing that. Absolutely not. Now, what I do find strange, however, that the Bond was publicly about this. This could be a reason. I mean, knowing the UCI, they could say, let's look into that. These guys, they need to come to the disciplinary commission and explain themselves. At the end, they won't be able to do anything about it, I would think. But it's done. It's done sometimes. Also, sometimes you have a rider who is like, he has no particular role or goal or task in a race, and he likes one rider more than the other. He can, pull, or he can let one rider pass, and another one he doesn't let him pass. Those are little things that happen, because of interpersonal relationships in the peloton. It's a small world. These guys know each other. Some guys are friends, sometimes are training partners, although they are on another team. They live in the same neighborhood. Their wives are friends. Their kids goes to school together. The community in Andorra, the community in Girona, the community in Monaco. There's a lot of friendships there between riders that are on different teams. So you can look at it from that angle also.
I mean, you could also. Dries de Bond is stretching, what you can do here, but you could also be like, Geraint Thomas, who's to say that he's not just nervous? And it's like, I wanted to get to the front. And, I didn't realize. It's like, I was trying to get a workout. I didn't want to get out of shape. I do some efforts at the end.
Huge hug after the finish between him and Mark Cavendish would tell otherwise. But listen, I mean, nobody said back then that it could be considered cheating. I mean, I think that's taking it a bit too far. It's not. I've seen some comments of people who think it's cheating, but I don't know. I think, listen, the Bond was looking out for his future. That's the main reason. He's trying to assure that he has a job in the future.
I mean, way to go, EF director. Right.
Listen, I can go back. I mean, it's a long time ago, but I can go back to, a race back in mid 2000s, early 2000s, maybe. There was a race that we were particularly interested in winning. And, there was a rider on our team who was in a breakaway with another rider who didn't have a contract. And, I'm not afraid to say that I was not at the race, but I was on the phone. I was in another race, actually. I was in the Dauphiné. And I called the director who was there and I said, hey, if our rider can win, we'll take that other guy on the team next year. And this guy got a contract. So it's not new, it's not new.
Yeah. It happens all the time. But the closest I've ever, and this didn't happen, I was just reading it this way, but it was San Remo, not this year, but the year before. I thought the way it was playing out, I was like, Pogačar's going to gift this thing to Michael Matthews because they're friends.
You don't.
This is unbelievable that this is happening.
No, but you know what, Spencer? Now that you talk about this, not Milan-San Remo, because it's too big of a race. But Pogačar tried to give the stage to Michael Matthews in the Tour a few years ago.
You know what? I think it was
a drag uphill. I don't remember it was close to Switzerland.
Yeah.
And I think Michael Matthews got second. I don't remember who won. Maybe Wout van. I don't remember if it was Wout van Aert, maybe. But you could clearly see that Pogačar was there and he was sprinting. And he was trying to, hold and let Michael Matthews come. I think Michael Matthews got second. Don't remember which stage it was, but
it was Lausanne, stage 8, 2022.
Was Lausanne? Yeah.
Yep. Van Aert wins. Matthews is second. Pogačar's third.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is that's pushing it. Gifting tour stages to your friend when you're in the GC battle and you need. That might have been before, because that's the first. Pogačar had not lost a tour yet. I think he was flying a little too high there.
He was on fire in the first, and he was sprinting for every single stage he could.
Yep.
But I remember there was comments about it. But if you look it on repeat, you can see that Pogačar's waiting for Michael Matthews. I mean, he wouldn't have beaten Wout anyway. He wouldn't have beaten Wout, but you could see that he was trying to make Michael Matthews win, doing a little lead out and then kind of soft pedaling a bit.
That's insane. The GC, then Vingegaard was 39 seconds back. So it's in retrospect, you're you should be taking as much time as you possibly can because you have this destroyer coming behind you. Before we talk about those guys, I know everyone's sitting there just yelling at their radio. What about the Tour of Slovenia? When are you guys going to talk about the Tour of Slovenia? But just to give people a quick update, been 3 stages. 2 of them are sprints. Dylan Groenewegen wins both. There was one not sprint day. I believe I was a little, full disclosure, a little distracted when I was watching the stage, but it looked like a group broke off the front near the end. Kind of interesting racing terrain. And Rui Oliveira won, but then Fabio Christian, he got relegated. So Fabian Christian won, who's now in the GC because of that. It was a strong group with Anders Holland Johansson, Theo Gegenhardt, Felix Grobscharter, and they were a minute ahead of the peloton.
And what about this? And the name of this? Try to say the name of the Slovenian kid.
Jacob. Oh my Lord, Armzel.
Yeah, well, listen, Spencer. Learn that name. Learn that name because we're going to see that guy a lot in the future. It's a huge talent. He's 19 years old, and I have info that he's the guy's really good, really, really good. So we better figure out how we pronounce his last name.
Yeah, that was when Primoz Roglic was coming up. I was like, what the heck is this name? I'm sure I won't have to learn that. Little did we know. Speaking of young talents, and then we have a summit finish tomorrow.
Well, so let's talk about this sprint for a second, Spencer. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that who was it? Was it Rui Oliveira or?
I think it was Rui.
I don't know if it's Rui or. I mean, they're listeners. They're listeners of the Move, by the way, both of them.
It was Rui Oliveira.
Okay, well, I think very, very unjust, unfair disqualification. He absolutely did nothing. Fabio Christian protested a little bit, but Oliveira had passed him already. The sprint was lost, so Christian was leading it out. Oliveira passed him. Didn't even. I mean, he did a little bit, but there was absolutely no disturbance at all. No loss of speed. The only thing is that Christian, he saw he lost the sprint. He put up his arm, but then in the post-race interview, he didn't even mention it. Christian, I listened to the interview. Christian said, I'm second. He was taking the leader jersey because of the bonifications, because he had it in the breakaway the day before, and didn't even mention it. And then they started to debate, and finally, 15 minutes after the finish, they decided to disqualify Rui Oliveira. That's not fair. If that's a disqualification, man. they'll have to disqualify a lot of people. He had, there was space. It was, and on top of that, I mean, the sad part is, this was his first victory in 7 years professional. His first victory on the road. The guy's really good on the track. I think that's the guy who's Olympic champion actually on the velodrome in the Madison, I think. And his brother won his first race, his first victory in the pros not so long ago in another race a few weeks ago. In Italy, I don't know if it was Coppi Bartali or something like that. So one of those races. I actually think he won 2 stages. The other Oliveira, but this Oliveira of the twins, this was his first victory ever in professionals, and then they take it away for something it was absolutely no violation of the rules.
I didn't realize they were twins until right now, but they do look a lot alike.
They're identical twins.
Yeah. The resemblance. It could cost him the overall. I mean, because Fabio Cusci got 16 bonus seconds.
No. Oliveira's not going to be in the overall. It's too hard.
I mean, this year maybe is too hard because stage 4 is that's a very hard climb. But yeah, I mean, they've had editions where they and then the race finishes in Novo Mesto, the real Novo Mesto that we mistakenly thought the World Cup was taking place.
I've checked, Spencer. There's a Novo Mesto and there's a Nove Mesto.
Oh,
I don't know which one is in Slovenia, which one is in Czech Republic, but that's the difference.
I think Novo is in Slovenia.
Okay, the Nove Mesto is in Czech Republic.
But this one, I'm really late on this. A listener sent this to me. Thank you. Stage 1, Tour of Norway. We were busy with the Giro. Did you see the stage? This guy,
no.
Storm Ingebrigtsen gets in the early breakaway, 20 years old. And
I checked for a second there because the Ingebrigtsen is a very famous name in track and field. The 3 brothers. Jacob Ingebrigtsen is the best mid-distance runner in the world, but they're not related.
That's funny. I assumed they were related, but they could not reel him in at the end. It was almost like an optical illusion. It was like with 4K to go, the breakaway is getting caught, and this guy just kind of rides off the front of the breakaway, but he's just dangling there. And they showed his power on screen. And this is at the end of a breakaway day, and it's crosswinds, nasty weather, and he's holding almost 500 watts in the saddle. He probably didn't go below that power for the last 4K and just holds off the bunch sprint. It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with that performance and that name, I think he's going to come to the attention of a lot of teams. I can't see if that X will not sign this guy.
Yeah, I imagine the contract is being drafted as we speak. The funds have been transferred. But anything else before we go on to the Dauphiné?
Another victory of Tour of Norway, another victory for Brandon. What a rider.
Yeah, he wins the overall and
2 stages, no? Yeah.
This is the craziest part about this race is he didn't finish below second in the entire stage race. It's unbelievable. I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
He must be at 10 victories already, I think, this year.
Well, he has 8 in his career, and I think they're all this year. Mm-hmm. Had never won a pro race before this year.
Yeah.
Probably had never been pro, right? Because he's 19 years old.
No, he still races with the development. I think he turned pro now, definitely, but I think he started on the development team this year.
Should they tour leader, maybe? Pull Jonas from the tour team. There is a lot of people on Twitter. You shouldn't read Twitter just as a life lesson, but I'm shocked at how many people are he should be going to the tour instead of Wout van Aert. It's the tour is a little bit different than the Tour of Norway. There are differences here.
Yeah. But still, listen, impressive season so far. I'm still blown away by this stage he won in Tour of Catalonia. The first one he won when he came from behind and he was leading out basically. I mean, he had to reel in. Who was it? The cyclocross rider.
It was Tibor del Grosso.
Tibor del Grosso, who was on his way to the victory, and he was pulling, and he had Caden Groves in the wheel. I mean, one of the best sprinters in the world, and one of the best sprinters in the world when it's slightly uphill. And he pulled for more than a kilometer, and he just rode him out of his wheel.
And he had this guy Dorian Godin, who was behind Caden Groves, who's like an uphill sprinting specialist.
Yeah,
and he led them out and held them off.
That was one of the most impressive performances so far. Was really, I mean, and especially for a 19-year-old. You know, like the race art and the cold-blooded, instinct he has. It's crazy.
Is he the best? I mean, Pogačar was up there. He was really good at 19. But have you ever seen, maybe setting Pogačar aside, have you ever seen a 19-year-old just like turn pro like this?
Well, it's different type of riders, right? Listen, Juan Ayuso was third at 19 in the Vuelta.
Yeah, I guess like even Pogačar, because Pogačar was third at 20 in the Vuelta, but riding to third in a Grand Tour is just like a little less spectacular. Whereas Bruyneel, you're just like, oh my God, this guy can't lose.
What really comes to the attention is the way he knows how to win. This guy's a winner. He's a finisher. He can finish it off. You can have riders who are really, really good. You can see, for example, Ayuso is really good, But at 19, he didn't win that much, if at all. I don't think he won any races in his first season. So this guy just, if he keeps going like this, he's going to win 15 races in his first season.
Well, Juan Ayuso doesn't have that many more victories than Matthew Brennan does currently. Uh-huh. So, yeah, Matthew, it's almost a Merxian just to be 19. Never have been a World Tour pro before and will be winning at this level.
Yeah, it is. But, you can't compare with Merckx and Ayuso and Pogačar because he's not a GC rider. He's not, he's a GC rider for races like Norway, but not for the mountains.
Yeah.
That's not for the time trials.
Yeah. More like a mini Sagan.
Peter Sagan type. Yeah.
Sport version of Sagan. Everybody, this episode is brought to you by Manukora honey. Are you looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine? Well, look no further because you found it. With Manukora honey, it's rich and creamy and the most delicious honey you've ever had, in addition to having massive health benefits. And it's ethically produced by Manukora's master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. The best way to use it is just a spoonful, straight away, first thing in the morning. And that's exactly what I do when I wake up for the Giro d'Italia, or I guess the Tour de France soon, or the Dauphiné this weekend. I'm going to be taking some Manukora honey straight down the gullet with a spoon. And when the kids wake up, that's what they want as well. They're clamoring for the Manukora honey. And it's like we're tricking them because it has powerful nutrients that support immunity and gut health. So they're not getting sick as much. The bees collect the nectar from the Manuka tea tree in New Zealand. The nectar is packed with bioactives, and the honey that is produced has 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. So everyone's healthier and more full. It's a game changer. You'll find yourself, if you use it throughout the day, that's fine. You don't just have to have it in the morning, and you'll be snacking less. I'm eating fewer sweets throughout the day. I feel healthier. It's truly honey with superpowers. And now it's easier than ever to try Manukora honey. All you have to do is head to manukora.com/themove to save 31% off plus $25 with the free gifts with the starter kit, which comes with a Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, and a wooden spoon, as well as a guidebook. Man, you cannot afford to not go do this. It would be financially irresponsible not to go to manukora.com/themove, save 31%, plus get $25 worth of free gifts. Find that link in the show notes. All right, back to the show. And all right, so Critérium du Dauphiné starts on Sunday. A little bit different this year because you remember normally it's like really the final 2 mountain stages are really early in the morning or early in the afternoon if you're in Europe because of the Roland Garros French tournament. But everything shifted a week this year. So we have the tennis tournament this weekend. So it's early on stage 1 on Sunday, but then we're like normal times for the rest of the race, which is going to be great because we can actually watch it. But it's 8 stages, Sunday to Sunday. Mini Tour de France. It kind of like, I feel like usually carves off the most interesting parts of the tour. And then, I mean, just part of it is the region, the Dauphiné is like a region of France that's mostly in the Alps, but we're like creeping out of that region for the purposes of this race because stage 1 is in almost like central France, but like stage 1, 2, 3 are rolling difficult days. This is why this is one of my favorite races of the year because it's not a lot of just bang on sprint stages. Like every day is interesting. Stage 4 time trial, 17K long time trial, and these are long stages, over 200 kilometers. The first 3 stages. Stage 5 hilly stage, then stage 6 mountain stage 7 mountain stage 8 mountain stage, all alpine mountain stages. People will be using them basically as like a Tour de France training camp this whole race. But the big headline is the contenders are Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard, and Remco Evenepoel. So the 3 favorites for the Tour are the 3 favorites for this race.
Yeah, it's kind of unique, to see them racing, together and against each other before the Tour. Normally one would choose the Tour of Switzerland, the other the Dauphiné, the other would do a training camp and then another race. So the fact that the 3 of them are there will be interesting. It's like you say, Spencer. I think the Dauphiné is a great race to prepare the Tour. It's the same type of roads, the same atmosphere, same organization. You guess before, lately they don't do it that much anymore, but sometimes the Dauphiné always put if there was sometimes like a new stage or a new climb in the Alps, they would put it in the Dauphiné to attract the big riders, of course. But yeah, I think it's the ideal preparation for the Tour. I personally like it better than the Tour of Switzerland because it's a week earlier, and then you still have time in between the Dauphiné and the Tour to do altitude and even to go recon some stages. Because in earlier on, if it's high Alps or high Pyrenees, but more the Alps, it may sometimes be difficult, in April and May to go recon them because there's still snow. That's why June is the best time to go recon them. But yeah, it will be an interesting race to follow. The question is, will they really go full out? I think so.
They normally do, right?
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about today's cycling. If I would say, 15, 20 years ago, the Dauphiné was a preparation race, and you could actually say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go like full gas 2 stages, and then the other days I'll just stay quiet, don't spend too much energy. And you could, if you were a Tour de France favorite, you could see often the scenario that one of those guys he was like 5th or 6th in the Dauphiné. And there was still, there was no panic. In today's cycling, it's different. If you're not good in the Dauphiné, or if you're not top, it's going to be panic. Because these guys, they race so little that when they race, they go full. I expect Jonas and Tadej to go full gas against each other. Remco is still in his building phase. But the interesting thing about Remco is that I read an interview of his trainer who said that Remco is now 1.5 kilo lighter than the same time last year. And we know Remco was not great in last year's Dauphiné, and he improved a lot between the Dauphiné and the Tour de France, both physically and also he got his weight down. The Remco, if you see pictures of Remco in the Dauphiné of 2024 and pictures of Remco in the Tour, it's not the same guy.
It's crazy. Yeah. But why does Remco, you say building phase, why are Jonas and Tadej never in building phases? It's like Remco, it feels like has to adhere to the rules of logic more than
but
the
let's not
guys.
forget Remco comes back from an accident, right? So he raced very little. He started his first race. So he did Flèche-Brabançon, Amstel, Liège, 3 races, and then Romandie. That's it. He hasn't raced more than this.
But isn't that more than Jonas?
Yeah, well, Jonas, did Algarve and then Paris-Nice, crashed and abandoned. So, I don't know.
It's possible too. He's a very athletic person. He's was a almost professional soccer player. So it's possible he's just not as naturally skinny as the other 2 guys.
Yeah. That's true. But I'm pretty sure that when we're going to see Remco in his racing outfit at the Dauphiné already, I'm going to say, oh, wow, that guy's ripped. He's ready.
I can't wait.
All 3 of them are going to be ripped, Spencer. They're going to be, we haven't seen much, and that's also the interesting thing of now having the Dauphiné, because we've seen a lot of little hints, right? These 3 guys with their teams have been 3 weeks together on the same mountain in Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada, I've spoken to somebody who's there on one of the teams, and he says 70% of the Tour de France peloton is here right now. Sierra Nevada is apparently popular in May, more than Tenerife, because Tenerife is. Ineos was in Tenerife, no? And on the Teide, I think, But Sierra Nevada is usually good weather. It's the south of Spain, but anyway, Tenerife is also good weather.
It's closer too.
But it's logistically. Actually, I just was with my son in Andalusia last weekend for 2 races, and on our way back, a few team cars, professional cars, passed us on the way back from Sierra Nevada towards. I don't know if they went to Girona or because some teams have their base there. But we don't get a lot of information, other than Jonas being worried about his tan lines, I guess, because he's riding in a gilet, no sleeves, and then low socks. Which is pretty, the information I'm getting is that both of them are flying. Jonas apparently has his best numbers ever, and Tadej is close to his best form ever. If he still improves compared to what he was, but I personally think that the interesting thing is that they're definitely going to be closer together than last year's Tour de France, which is the interesting thing. We want a great battle between Jonas and Tadej, and even if Remco is now also better than last year at this point, I still think that it's fair to say that he's not. I think that's the biggest candidate for 3rd place in the Tour if everything goes to plan now. What we will most likely see is that between now and the start of the Tour, if we have 4, 5, 6 candidates or favorites, something will happen with one of them. It's always the case. We hope not, that it's not with the big favorites, but it's still a long way to go.
Yeah. We won't get a clean 3-way run at it. This is just some crazy stats I've been looking up. So, do you know how many times these guys have faced off in a 1-week stage race? It's 1 time ever. 2022 Tirreno,
all 3.
All 3. And so it was Tadej 1, Jonas 2, Remco 11. Do you know how many times Jonas and Tadej have faced off before the Tour at a 1-week stage race, either Dauphiné or Swiss?
Never.
It's never happened. Also,
what I can remember is Paris-Nice last year, 2 years ago, when Tadej won and Jonas was 3rd, and I'm going to guess David Gaudu was 2nd.
Yeah, right. The ride of David Gaudu's life.
Yeah. That's 2 years ago, no?
2 years ago. And then I think Tadej went to Liège and crashed him, right? And broke his wrist.
Yeah.
And then Jonas wins the Tour. This is crazy. So I was thinking, so a professional gambler texted me this morning saying, like, is there any way Tadej loses this? And I was like, well, let's just look through the data. Do you know how many times in his career or since winning the Tour in 2020, Tadej Pogačar has lost a 1 week stage race? I'll be impressed if you can remember.
Wait, a 1 week stage race
that Pogačar started and did not win.
I'm tempted to say never, but I'm feeling like there's one.
There is one.
Okay. Is it a World Tour race?
It's a World Tour race.
Tour of the Basque Country?
Yes, 2021. Remember, It was like a Visma raid.
Tour of the Basque Country. Okay, yeah. And where was Tadej?
Tadej was third. Jonas was second. Primoz was first.
That's when McNulty was in the lead.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they worked him over.
Yeah.
And kind of like actually it's like precursor to the 2022 Tour where they would work him over at the Tour. But so actually, it's kind of shocking. I mean, Pogačar's never lost to Remco in a stage race. He's only lost to Jonas 3 times in stage races. 2 of those are at the Tour. One is just the Basque Country, which we just said. I mean, who do you think's winning this race? You think it's Pogačar?
The Dauphiné?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to say Tadej. Yeah.
So here's the odds. It's kind of interesting. It's not as spicy as it was this morning. So Pogačar is on Unibet, minus 215. Jonas Vingegaard plus 300. Remco Evenepoel plus 600. Matteo Jorgensen plus 1600. Pogačar, even at minus 215, that's still better than his Tour odds, which I believe are minus 250. Which like that actually doesn't make any sense because there's fewer variables in a 1 week race. He's arguably a better 1 week racer than 3 week racer. And your money's tied up for not as long. So if you think Tadej is going to win the Tour, you should probably just bet him on the Dauphiné if you can find a book that's going to take the money.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a better chance one of the two of Remco and Jonas beat him at the Tour than they do at this race.
I keep saying, Spencer, I'm it may become, something that I'm repeat and it may become boring, but if Pogačar races intelligently and conservatively, it's almost impossible to beat him in the Tour. If he doesn't do anything stupid with like long attacks, and I can't see him be beaten.
I kind of agree with you. And people, it might sound ridiculous, but think about like those Lance tours and then the Froome tours. Like really, like Froome lost that one because he crashed, broke his wrist. But those guys were just so much better than everybody else that it was hard. All the kinks get ironed out over 3 weeks. And like, how could you beat them if you're not as good as them? Also, I've been thinking about this Lance quote. He said it during the Tour last year. He's like, I would do Madone, and if I could hit a certain number, I knew I was going to win the Tour. But these guys probably don't have that luxury, right? Because if Jonas and Remco are always getting better, Tadej, can he ever feel comfortable? Or is it like, I have to be better than the year before?
Yeah, for sure. And nowadays, so much has changed because, let's not forget, when Lance was doing these tests on the Madone, he was also a pioneer in terms of data. It may sound, there were not that many people who were riding with SRM back then. SRM was the first real power meter. And I've been told that as of today, it's still the most accurate device. I actually had a nice talk with Uli Schöbler from the founder and owner of SRM in Germany when we were there for the Jan Ullrich Festival. And he confirmed, he said, it's still the most precise. All the other devices are okay, but it's more, they're sometimes certain percentages off. But anyways, Lance was one of the first ones who really used it. There was a lot of guys who had power meters, but you still have to know how to use it, right? And Lance was religiously using it in training. Never raced with it, or almost never, at least never in the Tour. because of the weight. But there were not that many riders back then who were focusing on their times and their data, and there were a few. Now it's I'm not gonna, the whole peloton, but I mean now it starts as soon as they get a bike. When they're 14, 15, they have a power meter, and that's what they go by. So that's also why they keep improving every single time. I mean, if I look, I'm coming back to my son, for example. He's 16. These guys get better every single month. Every single month. He comes back. He says, "Daddy, I broke my best 20 minutes. I did my best 5 minutes." Like, it's constantly because they have a goal. They focus. They never just get on their bike and ride around like we used to do. We went on a ride. We said, "Okay, we're going to do 5 hours." We rode 5 hours. And, sometimes we saw a little hill, we sprinted up the hill. Those were our intervals, right? Now it's so specific and constantly pursuing goals that they're pushing themselves all the time and constantly improve.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking about it. As you were saying that, I was just imagining all that time I wasted cruising around 5 hours, not training.
It was more fun, Spencer.
It is way more fun. Way more fun. I don't know if I could train like your son trains. We should mention before we go, Jonas Vingegaard, you said still on 150 millimeter cranks.
I'm not sure. True? I'm not sure. I've heard this. I don't know. If that's true, I have my doubts. I mean, I have, warmed up and understood the movement towards shorter cranks. I understand why. I can see the sense of it, but man, 150, that's pushing it to an extreme. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not. I know he had it in Algarve. I know he had them in Paris-Nice. I want to see over 3 weeks in long mountains if that's really if it's true that he's on 150. Right? We know that Pogačar's on 165, which was when everybody found out Pogačar was on 165, they say, whoa, everybody's used to 172 and a half or 170. Pogačar goes down to 165. It was like the new thing. Right now they're taking it shorter and shorter. So I mean, listen, if he's on 150, they have a reason. They've done the tests, right? There's no way that they're just experimenting with it. But I think it's very short.
I mean, if you shorten your cranks, you will speed up your cadence. It is quite a bit different I don't know. Everything just feels different. Your position's different. 150 seems extreme. And you say the testing must exist where they think it's better. Jonas Vingegaard's not won a single mountain, like a uphill finish this year. So it's like
I think there's, I personally think, Spencer, there's the tests, and for sure, if they do the specific test, whether it's on in a one-off test and on a home trainer or on a lab bike, for sure the data will tell, okay, this is an advantage. I'm just thinking that, is it true over 3 weeks? That's different.
Yeah,
is it true over 3 weeks? Is it possible to maintain, when you do an attack or when is it possible to maintain that over a longer period of time? That's where I have my doubts.
Maybe they think the shorter cranks help you over 3 weeks, I guess would be, they must, right?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I have no scientific data to say or to back up what I'm doubting about. It's just, my gut feeling, but I think 150 is pushing it too much.
I agree. So before we go, I just have one question I want to ask you from a listener that wrote in kindly. And I was wondering about this too. Jonathan Vaughters, your good friend, was on the TNT Sports broadcast and said, I thought something interesting. He's like, hey, you guys you can think everything and you can say it, but there's a very good chance the riders can't hear anything because these radios are terrible. And someone wrote in saying, like, even if they have their AirPods in when they're riding at 20 miles an hour, it can be hard to hear stuff. that's not even taking into account like connection issues. Is this a real thing, Johan, where people actually might not be hearing what you're saying as the director?
Yeah. That's one of the things that almost hasn't evolved, the technology of the radio communication. Although I would think that on Col di Finestre, especially the second part of Col di Finestre, it's so spread out that the cars are not far behind. But it is possible. But I mean, I don't think that was the issue.
What did you hear? UAE they said, yeah, we kind of wanted to let him make the decision. So we just kind of lightly suggested.
That was a really bad answer. No. Especially, I mean, listen, Del Toro was 21, his first experience like this. He's overwhelmed. No. I think personally, listen, it's all good and well to say, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to give instruction from the car. There, you don't feel the rider's legs, you know. I mean, I personally think Del Toro was more or less on the limit, and as he said also in his interviews, he said, well, if I start to pull, then I'm 100% sure Carapaz will attack me. I'm going to get dropped, and instead of not winning, I'm not going to even be second. So I still think that both of those guys made the mistake. I've seen a lot of criticism towards Del Toro. I don't agree. Listen, the guy's young. He was on the limit. You can't think straight. He made mistakes, but not to crucify him. I mean, it's like, okay. I think what really went in against him was the fact that when he got to the finish, he sprinted like crazy. And then, I would say he wasn't sad after the race. He was like,
well, he had a victory salute. I honestly thought, oh no, he doesn't know Simon Yates is up the road.
No,
I saw that.
He did know. Listen, he did know. He was happy to be second. That's, I mean, obviously he was disappointed, but I'm still convinced. I mean, and especially when I listened to the interview of Carapaz and the tone and the bitterness with which he was answering, it was personal beef between Carapaz and Del Toro. It was not good. He said, well, okay, a smarter rider won, but ultimately it's Del Toro who lost the Giro. I mean, yeah, but you also lost it, my friend. It's like, who would have said that if Carapaz works together with Del Toro, he could have dropped him on Sestriere.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing that I can't get past, is because Del Toro asks him to pull through. He says no, but it's like, you don't know that you can't drop. Maybe he thought he couldn't drop him, but yeah, it's like you can drop him on that climb if he's cracking.
I mean, I think Carapaz was convinced he could drop Del Toro on Finestre. When he saw that didn't happen, he said, "Okay, I'm not winning. You're not winning either." I think that's the simplest answer, and I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. I do think the team car, you got to say, hey man, maybe Simon Yates in the virtual lead. Maybe we think about that. I was shocked that they said they didn't really pass on any information to him.
No, they did.
We'll just let
it's
him.
It's easy to blame him on the radio. I mean, it's like deep down inside, the DSs must also said, okay, we messed up. How can we explain this? Okay, hey, the radios don't work.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, interestingly, those underlying issues that we're talking about, maybe at that team could keep the tour interesting, because they don't have a history of making like the absolute best decisions, you would say, in the heat of the moment. Johan, one more question. I thought this one was interesting too. So there's a question from a listener, Sven. When like people take spare bikes and they don't take their computer, why do the teams not just pass it up to them like they would a water bottle? Like, is that not a helpful thing to have?
I'm pretty sure that sometimes they do.
And I've always wondered this: why are there not water bottles on the spare bikes?
Yeah, well, that's a big mistake. Okay. Well, no, I mean, obviously they're not going to be. I mean, they're going to be hot, really hot.
Yeah, I guess if it's a summer race, they will be hot.
But if it's a planned, I mean, if you can see it coming, if the guy gives a heads up to the car, hey, I need to change my bike. The mechanic can put 2 bottles on.
It's shocking how often they just get bikes with no.
Actually, Spencer, I'm saying that maybe we can, the rules have changed. They're not allowed to lean out of the window anymore, the mechanics. So that's maybe why. But anyways, you can take 2 bottles and then quickly put them in. It's all very hectic. It needs to be fast. Listen, the most important thing is that the guy gets a new bike. That's the most important. Everything else can get fixed and corrected afterwards. If it's the head unit or bottles, they can get it afterwards, right?
My one old man rant about cycling is I feel like that no one teaches bike change or wheel change etiquette anymore. It's like, as a kid, the first thing, it's like, take your bottles, change your bottles over while they're changing the tires. Second thing, get off the dang bike. I don't know what this thing is where people stand on the bike now.
Staying on the bike, that's the worst a rider can do.
I know.
Especially now with the true axles and the disc brakes, man, no, you have to get off. You have to get off the bike. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with these kids these days. No one's teaching them the fundamentals. I don't recognize the game anymore. But anything else, Johan, before we buckle in for another stage race?
Just one last mention is that the Dauphiné will be Romain Bardet's last race as a professional cyclist. So he decided to, it doesn't finish the season, but this is his home race. The race actually starts from his hometown, and it will be his last race ever. So after Dauphiné, Romain Bardet will not be a professional cyclist anymore. So let's hope he can win a stage.
Is that it? That's got to be intentional, right? That's not just that they started it from his hometown. There's no way that's a coincidence.
I don't know how the Tour obviously is decided a long time in advance. I don't know how long the Dauphiné is decided in advance. Anyway, Bardet already said at the end of the season or in the beginning of this season that he was going to go on till the Dauphiné. So maybe they had it in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I still think about that stage of the Giro that he should have had. It's going to be tough, really tough to win a stage of this Dauphiné.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. And it's on Peacock in the US. If you're wondering how you watch this.
Well, I'm going to go with my good old Max, which covers the whole season.
I know, it's nice. And so I'm jealous of that situation. But thanks, Johan. And we'll be back not on Monday, but on next Friday to break down what has happened and then preview the final weekend.
Okay. Thanks, Spencer.
All right. Bye.